Hello and welcome back to the game room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love talking about? Games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them. Or at least the people who play them. Well, that's not me, and that's not the 1,569 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. Well, I have finally made it official. I have changed the name of the channel from LT Showcase to Luke's Game Room. For years now, I've had this showcase moniker that when you put into YouTube search, it always asks you, oh, you said Lucia Showcase, or oh, you meant LT Showcase. Did you mean Xbox Showcase? Did you mean Nintendo Showcase? Did you mean whatever the hell you searched? Did you mean something else? And it's so funny. Anything else I've ever looked up before in my life, always, when I search, comes up. But whenever I searched my own damn YouTube channel, I got this. So, done with it. We're doing Luke's Game Room. It's getting me all those sweet game room clicks. And yeah, that's what we're doing. And what's funny is I thought after the last one of these videos of games I gave up on, that was it. Well, I guess there's a lot more games that I gave up on than I even realized. One of the comments even mentioned a certain game we're going to talk about here in the last video, so that got me looking at, oh, what did I miss? Well, I missed a lot. So let's check out what games I sucked at and stopped playing after this. There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
So I teased it. The game that was the inspiration for looking at more games I gave up on was Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Now, this was a collaboration I did on Hated Gems with a guy named KWK Box. I had a really fun time making the video. I did not have a really fun time playing the game. Now, AVGN will lance a lot of games unfairly, in my opinion. This one, completely fair. Garbage, dumpster fire. I don't care that Rare made it. I don't enjoy it. I did not enjoy it for the video. I did not enjoy playing it for a second. Obtuse, where the hell do I go? Gameplay, super long as far as, nothing made sense. Trivia that doesn't make sense. Based on a movie that was enjoyable, game is not. So that was one that I gave up on for the video, and I will never be playing again. And there you go, bud. There. I gave up on that game. Now, some other games that I gave up on, one that's particularly funny for astute viewers of the channel. You'll notice that when I was doing almost a ongoing review of Icewind Dale, which I was playing on the Switch, I did say that once I put out the review on Icewind Dale, there'd be a giveaway for a copy of Maneater. Brand new, at least it was until my cats got to it. Can't grade it anymore. Well, I couldn't beat the game. And it wasn't that I wanted to give up on it, it just was a known glitch. A known glitch, mind you, from when the game was a PC game only. Not when it was ported. So they ported it to the Switch, warts and all. There's the ability in the fifth dungeon, whatever it's called, where you have certain key items you need to get, like keys and things of that nature. And especially if you know the way these computer RPGs work, you can save scum them, you can go in there and attack and kind of draw out enemies and do all these kind of long-winded things to get through the game, which I was doing because I was new to the whole concept of these type of games. And I got myself into a scenario where the key despawned and I was screwed and I couldn't progress any further in the game. And at this point, I was a significant portion, I was very significantly in the game. And I had avoided a few similar death scenarios even earlier. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm done. I've had my fill of this. Thank you guys. I will stick with my traditional RPGs. You can keep your computer RPGs for now. Didn't go through and check out Planescape Torment. Haven't checked out the Baldur's Gates because Icewind Dale kind of killed that. And yes, I've been waiting for someone to bring up, well, where is this? And if they had, congrats, you would have won the copy. But now that I mentioned it, I'll have to figure something else out. But yes, Icewind Dale, a game that I did unfortunately give up on because the game put me into a fail state. And after you put 20, 30 hours into a game to have it be unwinnable, is pretty hard to get up and want to continue playing. Now, another game that I gave up on that I really enjoyed, and I don't know if it was because I was playing it on Steam or what, if I switched to the PS4 version, because I know it came out, or I was playing it in 2017, and that game is Darkest Dungeon, or Dankest Dungeon, as my boy Donovan calls it. Now, I don't have a physical copy of this game. I should. The game is very
opulent and imperial.
That phrase from the intro cutscene is something that my wife and I use all the time lately. I don't know why it just started becoming a thing, but yes, we go around saying, "Oh yes, this dinner was opulent and imperial." And the game itself is a lot of fun. I played it soon after I played XCOM 2, and I want to say I stopped playing it because it was when PUBG came out, or when Shadow of War, or maybe even Breath of the Wild, and I was a decent amount of ways in it. But it's just very, very difficult. The way it works is it's a roguelike dungeon crawler where you build a team of different classes, and then you send them into the darkest dungeon. And when you're in the dungeon, your team is going to fail. It's just a matter of how quickly they're going to fail, because you constantly have to monitor how much light you have, you have to monitor how much food you have, and then you have to weigh that all against what you're trying to accomplish. And then sometimes you can just get yourself into unwinnable scenarios, and if your team member dies, they die permanently. And even if you don't die, they'll come out of the darkest dungeon with psychosis or a bad habit or masochism, where they'll start cutting themselves. And it's just a very, very difficult game, and one that it's hard to leave in the middle of it. And because of that, I left for some reason, which I always talk about. I talked about in the backlog video last week. Don't stop a game. If you stop a game, you're pretty much, especially one like this, it's hard to jump back into it. And I've tried over the years to jump back into it. I think I picked up the PS4 version, either when it was free, one of those PS Plus games, and tried it again. Just can't get back into it. And that makes me sad, because it's a lot of fun. But it's another one of those ones where if you stop midway, there's so many interlocking systems that jumping back into it can be frustrating. Even when you're playing it, it can be frustrating, especially if you don't really have, because I thought I devised a strategy that was getting me through the game when I did a thoughts video on it back in 2017, and I came up against a boss that just destroyed my whole team, and then I had to go back to the drawing board. So yes, Darkest Dungeon, another one I'd love to return to, but one that I haven't returned to and not really that upset about it. This kind of goes in line with my not being a huge fan of the Wii U. And even though I picked up the re-release of it on the Switch, it was really just to play Bowser's Fury, and that is Super Mario 3D World. As fun as this game is, and Jen and I played this a lot when it came out. This was a great game for the two of us to play, which might be part of the reason why we never beat it, is because when I play games with my wife, generally that's not because when I play games, I like to play huge sessions of it. I like to get it beaten. I like to get it done, over with, on to the next game. But my wife is not a lifeless loser like I am. So she'll have responsibilities or other things to do, or family to see. And so we'll have to take a pause. And when that happens, well, what am I supposed to do with my time? Especially if I'm covering videos, I gotta play something else. And then it just eventually, you'll get far enough in the game, you'll just stop playing. And one of the funny things about 3D World is that it really continues on. So you think you beat it, there's another world. You think you beat it, there's another world. And I think we got to one of those points where we thought we beat it again, and there was another world, and then it was just like, all right, you know what, we've had a lot of fun with this, but I don't have the desire to continue to play it, and that's just what happened. And yet again, it's hard to go back to it after it's been sitting there for so long. And I've never played it with 3 or 4 people. It's really a fun experience, but then, when something like Mario Odyssey comes out and it reminds you of like, oh, yeah, that's what a 3D Mario game should play like. Now, here's one when I got my PS3 in 2012. No, was it 2012? It was late 2012, early 2013. So I went through and I bought all of the PS3 games that I had missed out on. And one of the ones was, I think this was another Metal Jesus recommendation, was Disgaea 4. Now this seemed like it'd be perfect for me. I love tactical RPGs. At this time, I really was starved for any tactical RPGs. I hadn't discovered a lot of the ones on the PS1 yet. I hadn't discovered things like Front Mission or Vanguard Bandits, Tactics Ogre. I had really, at this point, only played Gladius, Final Fantasy Tactics, and then various Fire Emblems. So I picked up Disgaea 4 thinking this would be fun, and it just didn't click with me. The humor too zany. The art style, too anime, the preenies and everything. I just wasn't into it. I'm not a big fan of human characters with, devil wings or monkey tails or things of that nature. But the main thing I didn't like about it is that your party can be changed out in mid-battle. And that just rubbed me the wrong way. For some reason, that really bothered me. I didn't like that. The fact that, oh, you mean my party that I'm stuck with, I'm not actually stuck with, I can transport people out mid-battle, it's funny. I know a lot of people like that. I don't. I like to get into a battle knowing that, all right, the party I picked, I need to figure out how to beat it with the party I brought to the table. Because if you can't do that, then it makes me think, oh, well then, is there a fail-safe in the game? Or that means that no matter what, I can't have a hero moment where I figured out how to get through a tough scenario because I always have the access to my whole tool set. Which then, it's one of those things where jack of trade, master of none. And I always find that with games like with this, where it always gives you the opportunity to change it up. It's like, oh, well, I didn't really feel that satisfied with the combat. I didn't feel that satisfied with everything. The systems were too interlocking. I saw systems on top of systems on top of systems, and it just, nope, didn't go through with it. So I put it down, and I haven't regretted that choice, and I haven't tried a Disgaea game since. So let me know if I'm wrong. That's just my thoughts on this series and where I've kind of been with it for the last, almost 10 years now. It's crazy. Another PS3 game that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed playing this, and for some reason, I not only gave up on it once, I gave up on it twice. So that game is Dragon's Crown. Super fun game, ridiculous art style with ridiculous looking characters, and more than just your standard beat 'em up, but I think it's just either the repetitiveness or the lack of any actual meaningful progress was just not my cup of tea the first time playing through it. And then when I tried to play it again, I was when my buddy Rewind Mike, Nefarious West, and Mike Tendo, we were all trying to play it when the PS4 version came out. We were going to do 4-player co-op. And it's funny, we all logged in day one to do it, only to realize that we all had to get to a certain point in the game, first solo mode, to be able to play it online co-op, which is stupid. And that killed it. That literally killed it. That one day. We never all played it as one. I don't think any of us ever played together because of that. Because we all had to get to the next point. It was like 3 or 4 hours to get to that. Or 2 hours, whatnot. But it didn't work out. We're all in different time zones. I think Mike Tendo was just a new dad at the time. And yeah, put it down. Never picked it up again. I almost picked it up for the PS4. Maybe I would have played it on the PS4 more than I did on the PS3, just because me and the PS3 have a rocky history. But there you go. And speaking of systems I have rocky histories with, we're going to a handheld this time, and that would be the 3DS in a game called Fire Emblem Shadows of Valentia Echoes. And I was really looking forward to this because this game is a remake of Fire Emblem Gaiden for the Famicom. And I actually started playing Fire Emblem Gaiden for the channel, and I had a review of it come out the day Echoes came out. Now, unfortunately, this cartridge lost its save file. Like I say in my SNES games that never came out, I have a lot of trouble with games losing their save file. And I think there's 5 chapters in this game. I was deep in the second chapter, through one playthrough, mind you. And I saved it, turned it off, and it erased the whole thing. It still gave me enough to review the whole game, but that is one I gave up on through necessity. But the reason why I was okay with it, because I was like, all right, you know what? I won't spoil the whole story. I'm going to play Echoes, and we'll go from there. And I actually have the collector's edition of Echoes, but I bought a secondary edition so that I could open this one, because that's how much of a Fire Emblem fan I am. I always say this: if you support franchises, go all out for them. Buy them retail, buy not always the collector's editions, within reason, but still at least buy the standard edition on launch so that the company knows that these are sellers. Because if you complain that too many first-person shooters or too many battle royals come out or free-to-play games come out, but you won't open your wallet and buy these games when they are brand new, well, what do you expect? Anyways, I didn't enjoy it. It did not feel like Fire Emblem. It was very strange, more so than even playing the Famicom one. It just felt very strange to me. I know Gaiden is basically has the NES sequelitis of Nintendo franchises like the Zelda 2s or the Mario 2s, things of that. But it's almost open world where you can walk around battlefields, which is something they implemented into Engage of all things. And And in Three Houses too. Like a lot of the things they started off in this were implemented in Three Houses and Engage, but it just wasn't very engaging. And I didn't enjoy some of the remake of the music. I felt the music from the one in the NES could have been done better, and I put it down. And also part of it can't be overlooked, the fact that I can't stand playing handhelds. I really can't. I don't know what it is about me. I can't stand handhelds. Another handheld game that came out on the 3DS was Samus Returns. Metroid Samus Returns, which is essentially a remake of The Return of Samus, or whatever, the Game Boy Metroid 2. Although this basically was a whole different game. And I believe the people who made Metroid Dread made this, and I loved Dread. Dread was my favorite game of the year when the year it came out. I think it was 2020. Once again, I just couldn't get into the combat into the 3DS one. It just wasn't very engaging. Didn't enjoy it. Put it down. I'd like to go back to it. You know, it's funny, with Luigi's Mansion Dark Side of the Moon getting a Switch port, now I'm starting to think, well, they ported all the Wii U games. Maybe they'll start porting some 3DS games. Because I didn't finish Dark Side of the Moon either. There's another one. See, there's so many games I give up on. What's wrong with me? All right, now here's one that is very emblematic of 2014, when I just kind of washed my hands with the modern gaming scene. I always blame Bloodborne, I blame Titanfall, I blame Evolve, blame Arkham Knight, but then one of the other ones was Dragon Age Inquisition. Now, I hadn't played Dragon Age Origins, I didn't play Dragon Age 2. I've heard those are wonderful games, so of course I wanted to jump in on Dragon Age Inquisition. I played 6 or 10 hours. The party system annoyed me. Yet again, another game. I don't know what it is. When it's a 3D game that has me control a party, I can't wrap my head around it. I mean, I'm playing Final Fantasy 16 right now, and that's one of the things I think is a major positive, is the fact that they just said, you know what? You're just controlling yourself. You control Clive, you deal with him. You'll have party members come in and come out and help you out, but you're not switching amongst them. And to that, I say thank you. For at least these 3D action-based type games. I just like Xenoblade. I can't get into the Ys 8, and so many other ones I've talked about before. But Dragon Age Inquisition, that was really the straw that broke the camel's back. I think I put down Dragon Age Inquisition. I had my neighbor friend help me install ZSNES, not that he installed, but find the ROMs and everything. And that's when I played through Earthbound and Super Metroid and most of Chrono Trigger, and eventually led me to getting Treasure of the Rudris, which then snowballed into the channel. And that's kind of what happened. So Dragon Age Inquisition, I do have to thank for that. So I guess there is that. And now another PS4 game that I didn't get around to beating, which might surprise some people because I love Resident Evil 2, but Resident Evil 2 Remake, I actually didn't get through. Now, some of this comes down to me being a wimp when it comes to horror games. I'll admit that. I don't like being anxious while I'm playing games. Playing games is fun time. I don't mind having stressful thinking through tactical combat and knowing like, oh, I'm going to fail here or that if I make the wrong move. But going through hallways and getting jump scared and having to ration ammunition and having enemies that will chase me and Mr. X, no. And I think specifically with this one, I stopped playing it maybe when Elden Ring came out or something of that nature. It was around then, because I didn't even play it when it came out. I wanted to play it when it came out, but I was busy with other games at the time. And so when I finally got around to giving it a shot, it's like I was saying in the backlog video, I don't know if I was in the right mood for this. It wasn't Halloween, it was right after Halloween, and I was kind of bummed with myself, like, oh, I should have played this for Halloween. And I just put it down, and I've attempted to go back to it. I just wasn't... it's hard for me because I've played so many of these over-the-shoulder third-person action games, first-person, third-person, and I really just want, I longed more for the PS1 era tank controls, like something like the old Resident Evil 2. So, as nice as it is, as nice as the presentation was, this was a bit of my going through Final Fantasy VII Remake. I kind of miss the way things were. And it's not that way. And if you say anything about it, the gaming community is like, well, you could go play the original, old man. But hey, that's just how it is. Another one that is a PS4 era is Divinity Original Sin 2. And this shocks me that I just can't get into this game. Now, part of it might be because there is a lot of dialogue and a lot of tiny text, and for the longest time I avoided getting glasses because I didn't want them. But once I got them, a lot of modern gaming got a hell of a lot easier for me because I could start reading the tiny text. I mean, that's another thing I love about old retro games, is that my old ass eyes can read Terranigma or can read Suikoden 2 without glasses, and I wouldn't even notice it. But then I pop in these modern games, which I really first noticed with Skyrim all the way back in 2011. I'd pop it in there and be like, God, that's tiny ass text. All right, I guess I can read it. And with Divinity 2, I tried playing this with my buddy Alexi. Couldn't get through it. I tried playing it by myself, lost interest, and then even once the pandemic started, my buddy Sean, for my birthday, because the pandemic started literally on my birthday here in California as far as lockdown, he bought me Divinity Original Sin 2 for the Switch, and we played exactly 0 hours of it, which still bums me out to this day because we can't anymore. But it's just, I don't know what it is. The party system, it's XCOM-like, it's turn-based-like. You'd think I'd love it, but I don't know, maybe I'd like it more now. But it's funny, with these games that have so much endless freedom where you can literally go up to an NPC and stab them, and then suddenly that changes how the whole town outlook looks at you. A lot of people love that. I like the concept of that, but the execution of it really can kind of make me kind of lost in the game to the point where I'm not enjoying feeling like I'm not making progress. And I think that's part of it, is that I hate feeling like I'm wasting time or that I'm not doing the right thing or the effective thing. And a lot of these computer RPG style games, you know, the Icewind Dales, the Baldur's Gates, the Divinity Original Sin 2, I get that notion with it, even with your party composition. Like, sometimes too much freedom is almost a bad thing, because at a certain point, I want the game designer to tell me and to craft an experience for myself to have fun. I don't want to feel like, oh, well, you just messed up, you weren't smart enough, or you didn't make the right party composition. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to know that? How am I supposed to know that? I don't have all day to play your damn game. I want to play other stuff too. And what's funny is that it wasn't just Divinity Original Sin 2. I gave up on Divinity Original Sin 1, but the reason for that was different. I tried to download it for a potato computer. This was back before I started the channel and I had my Powerhouse PC. And I downloaded it on my old laptop, which is just a piece. And it barely worked. It barely loaded. I made a character, walked around, and just finally was like, nah, I can't play this. I can't play this, unfortunately. Which I always wanted to. And that's why when Divinity 2 came out for consoles, I was so gung-ho to give it a shot. But maybe that's the problem. I mean, these are PC games. Maybe I should play it on the PC. I don't know. Let me know if you think I'm an idiot for this. Alright, here's the most recent game I gave up on, which I didn't plan on giving up on it. It just didn't hold my attention, and I'm not bummed I bought it. I just, you know, it's been so long. It'd been since the early 90s I had played a mainline series from this franchise, and that is Pokemon Scarlet, and by association, Pokemon Violet. I finally picked up a damn mainline Pokemon game. Most of the reasons why I didn't is because, once again, the handheld thing. So I skipped Silver, I skipped Gold, Fire Red, Leaf Green, Black and White, X and Y, Omega Moon, 90, Boogaloo, Electric, Jigaloo, all the different ones. Sword and Shield, Hey You Pikachu, Hey You Eevee. Those were Switch ones. Same with Sword and Shield, and Shining Diamond and Brilliant Pearl. But I was like, you know what? Let's jump in with a new Pokemon, see what all the kids are doing. And part of it's just the nostalgia's not there because there's so many damn Pokemon now that it was nice going through and seeing the Pokemon I did know from the original 151. But then you have all these other ones that I have no attachment to, and it's that same stupid, overly anime art style that I've seen in everything that just is way too bright and gives sunburns to my corneas. It just wasn't appealing to me. You're in school, you have this weird, like, study simulator, and then there's a Omega thing that comes down. It lost my interest. It lost my interest, and I put it down mainly because I think that's when I got Dialfield Chronicles and Sparks of Hope and all those games, and then Fire Emblem Engage, and I just put it down and haven't picked it up and probably won't at this point. And am I sad about that? Not really. Alright, now here's one that is going back to me being a baby. Resident Evil 2. I have beaten this game. I've beaten this as Claire A, Leon A, and B, but I have not beaten it as Claire B. And getting through Leon's B-side, I've only done once, and that's mainly because Mr. X. And like I say, I can't handle that stuff. I don't know, and maybe it's because as Claire, she has less health, or the weapon she uses I don't find as effective as Leon's. I just can't get through the damn thing. And why am I throwing it out there? I don't know, to talk about Resident Evil 2 some more, but yeah, there you go. I haven't been able to beat Claire's B-side. And I also haven't beaten Hunk, and I haven't beaten Tofu, but I haven't really tried for them that much. It just bothers me. I was hoping when they announced the Resident Evil 2 remake that I'd be able to finally go through it, but even that, I didn't finish the damn thing. And another Resident Evil, we'll briefly talk about this one, but Resident Evil 4 VR I have it for the Oculus Quest 2, or the Meta Quest, shut up. The Oculus Quest 2, you know, it's funny, I picked it up because everyone was saying how great it was, but then upon putting it in, I'm like, it's just Resident Evil 4, and yeah, it's a great game, don't get me wrong, I don't have an interest in playing it right now. Same thing with the Resident Evil 4 remake that just came out. Oh, I'm sure it'd be great, I just really don't have an interest in playing it right now. So yeah, there you go. Alright, now this one is a game that I tried so hard to beat when I was a kid, and that is Saga Frontier. Now, Saga Frontier has 7 individualized stories, I believe. You can start off with any one of them. One of them's like red or rouge, one of them's blue, you have a robot guy. And I remember going through and playing, you know, a decent chunk of time in all 7 of them, and eventually getting to a point where I got stuck. And this was after I played Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy VII, maybe Final Fantasy VIII, and I thought I knew what I was doing in these RPGs, but this one really kicked my ass, where I just got lost. I would find myself where my party composition wasn't strong enough, I didn't grind enough, I couldn't figure out where to progress the story, and I didn't buy a guide. I think this was early enough where I don't even know if we had internet yet. It might have, or if we did, I didn't know where to look, or there wasn't much information. I didn't even know how to look for it. And it drove me so nuts that I couldn't figure out what the hell to do. I remember getting so happy when I would randomly stumble upon a cutscene, a la the way you would in Final Fantasy Tactics, where you would just walk into a bar and something would trigger, like the finding Beowulf or things of that nature, and be like, oh yes, I finally progressed something. But then I get stuck again. And to this day, I haven't beaten a single scenario. And even though I was so excited for the remaster for the Switch, I picked it up, I haven't played it yet. So I'd love to go through and do that. That has always been one of my hopes for the channel, just for myself, to go through and finally beat Saga Frontier. And that just drives me nuts that happened. Alright, another game that we're going to talk about that I did cover for the channel last year that I gave up on because I didn't really see the point in beating it was Star Wars Dark Forces. Essentially, it's Doom Star Wars. It's a very fun game, probably much more fun and enjoyable on PC. I was enjoying my time playing it on the PS1, but it also was one of those things where, you know, thank God it had cheats because it allowed me to see where the story was going and how ridiculously long some of the levels were and all the kind of the secrets here and there. And I eventually just like, you know, I already know where this game is going. I don't need to play it any longer. It's one of those things where, yeah, it's probably a 10-15 hour experience, but if you know what you're doing, you could beat it probably in about 5 hours, and I just didn't want to go through that amount of trial and error with a game that was not super enjoyable for myself, and that was Star Wars. And now another game that I gave up on that's of that Doom ilk was a N64 game, and that is Hexen. And Hexen, I picked up Hexen after I picked up Doom 64, which I did beat Doom 64. I did not super enjoy it. So then when I heard about Hexen coming out and it had magic in it, I was like, oh, well maybe I'll enjoy Hexen more. And I didn't. And unlike Doom 64, I was like, you know what? Let's put this one down. I didn't regret the purchase, but it just was not super enjoyable, and so I made the conscientious decision. I think it was also, I played it too soon after Doom 64. Like Doom 64, Hexen, and then I want to say Quake 64, all came out within about a year and a half. And it's very difficult to play the same style of game over and over again when it's not something, in my opinion, like an RPG, where it's turn-based and the nuances are different enough that it doesn't feel like you're playing the same game. With these kind of games, it just feels like I'm playing Doom 64 with a different skin on it, or this with a different skin on it. And this is kind of where I get my problems with some of the modern action-based games too, and the open world games where it's like, oh, this is just like Spider-Man with a Harry Potter skin, or oh, it's like Red Dead with a Zelda skin. You know, not always, But I'm thinking that's why I gave up on Hexen. All right, getting down to the last few, we have Jurassic Park 2 Operation Chaos. Now, this was a game that I had no idea was even coming out. I remember seeing it at Toys R Us randomly, and I had forced myself to beat the Super Nintendo version of Jurassic Park. I had rented and enjoyed the Genesis versions of Jurassic Park, and when I looked on the back of this one, and it looked like a run-and-gun style co-op game in the vein of Contra, I thought I might have found a diamond in the rough. Unfortunately, I didn't. My dad and I played it. It is super difficult. Super difficult. I don't think I've ever even gotten past the second stage. And I've always wanted to go back and play it. I've always wanted to go back and go deeper into it because it's, you know, and I always look up too. It's always like, is this a game that's expensive? Or is this a game people, because no one ever talks about it. And I know I'd wanted to bring this up in a game about these games had sequels, and I probably do that anyways. But this is one that I did give up on, although I'm a little bit more lenient with Super Nintendo and NES games just because the point of those games isn't always to beat them. Some of the point is the journey to beat them. And lastly, we got the Revenge of Shinobi. So this was a game I was covering on the channel. Genesis game, so already it had its work cutouts for it. I wasn't super enjoying it, and it just, the jumping mechanic really killed it for me. So after getting all the way, I want to say to stage 9, right after you beat Spider-Man, I put it down. I really enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed it, but it's one of those things where, you know, and I have an idea about doing this as a follow-up video, is that when is it okay to review a game? And I have a different designation for that, as well as different feelings on that as well. But for Revenge of Shinobi, I already knew where the game was going. I already had a feel for it, and punishing myself was only going to make the review worse, which, yes, I get, I didn't beat it, but, you know, we'll save that for another video. So yes, Revenge of Shinobi, I put down and stopped. And I think that is all of them. I have a few other ones that I could have mentioned that I don't have physical copies of, but let's end it there. Woo! That was a lot of games. It's going to be a long video, I'm sure. But hey, thank you for coming out on this journey with me. Let me know if you have any experience with these games, if you gave up on them, or if I'm wrong, or if there's some of these games I should give a second shot to. As just a reminder, I have a Patreon. I put out a new video every Tuesday. Thank you all so much for being here. I can't say it enough. I am so very, very grateful to have all the new subscribers, all the growth this year. It's funny, in preparation for this video, I went back and watched the first 2 games I gave up on. And I think since the one I did 2 months ago, I've gained 60 subs, which, my God, I don't think I gained 60 subs between 2019 and 2022. Dead serious. So it really does mean the world to me to have all you guys here. I am so happy you found the channel. Please leave your comments, hit that like button. Anything you want to bribe me, tell me what games to cover, please. Tell me I'm an idiot. Hey, engagement's engagement. But yes, it means the world to me to have you all here. I'm so incredibly grateful and thankful for every single one of you. It's been so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.